Facebook Live. We're live. We're going live. I've got all sorts of pages open, which is really kind of confusing. And you'll notice the green screen in the back. I was trying new stuff. So if you're watching me on YouTube or if you're watching the recording of this on Facebook, you see all this green behind me. I was hoping to do some newfangled background stuff, except my big bald head had this like green aura to it, so it looked kind of weird. So if you're listening to me right now, and just imagine me with this like green halo. It's kind of weird. It looks like I had that coronavirus or something. So hey. Great to see everybody. It's been a huge week in the group. If you're not a member of our private Facebook group, please come join us. Just go to Facebook and search for Creating the Lacrosse Goalie of the Future. If you're a parent, go tell your goalie to figure out a Facebook account. A lot of the kids don't have them, but go have them sign up for Facebook. It's funny how many kids lately have been joining, and they'll write in the comments like, "I just joined this because my mom made me get back on Facebook for this group." So which is awesome. So a lot of just great stuff happening this week. So really excited that you're all here. And as always, Joe Rose, good to see you. I was texting, messaging some people right before I came on, so that's why I'm a little bit late. First and foremost, listen, big shout out to a couple goalies, a couple families who have been fans of mine and have been members of Lacrosse Goalie University, and I want to. I want to talk. You know what? I'm going to talk about this a little bit later when we get more people in the group to hear what I'm about to say. But I got some really good news to share. So Ray Staworski, good to see you. Jonathan Redford, good to see you as always. Mike Tupin, hello, sir. Joel and everybody else. Yeah, Mike Tupin with the green screen. Yeah. So I had this big plan. There's this software called ManyCam, and so I was going to stream this not just to Facebook and not just to the group, but I was going like YouTube. But it all fell apart. So because my head looked like I was really sick. Jen George, good to see you. Welcome as always. So yeah, like let's talk about this. Let's get right into it. Listen, if this is the first time you're watching me or hearing me, I do want to just take a second to tell people like who the hell I am. A lot of you guys know me now, but a lot of people hear about me, they have no clue. So I'm Jonathan Edwards. I'm Coach Edwards. I am a lacrosse goalie coach, as well as now for a number of years. I don't talk about this much here, and I probably should. So I have a mental performance coaching company consultancy. I speak. I run coaching programs there. For athletes in a variety of sports. I also have a few. I do stuff in the corporate world, which is kind of cool. But lacrosse goaltending is my love. Like I was a goalie coming out of high school, and I was Division I recruit, all this stuff. So I just love it. And so I've been coaching goalies since 1992, and I run lacrossegoalietips.com, which is the longest consecutively running lacrosse goalie blog on the planet. And a lot of great resources there. If you head on over there, if you haven't done so already, get your cheat sheets. Just go to lacrossegoalietips.com, look for cheat sheets, and you'll find and get yourself a copy. And then you'll be on our list, like as well, so I can give you updates on what we're doing and any new content we put out. Kenneth Butler, hello, sir. Good to see you. And then another thing, if your athlete, one of the things that all of our athletes struggle with typically is negative thoughts, like internal negative thoughts, like that voice inside their head. So at my other website at athletespecific.com, I have a PDF about dealing with automatic negative thoughts, right? To just help your athlete through it, understanding that it's not them and things along those lines, how to deal with them when they come. So a lot of great stuff, tons of places to find me too. If you just like on Instagram, I'm Olympic Jonathan. Also for the young ones, I'm on TikTok at Olympic Jonathan, which has been a lot of fun. But just real quick, I just want everybody to know, like if you run an association, if you're a school like administrator, or if you work with a company who brings in speakers, please send me a message. I'd love to get in touch with you and see if there might be a way that we can work something out where I come to your area. Maybe I do a talk for a school or do a talk for a corporation, and then I can throw in something for your goalies on the side, and we can work something out there that's beneficial for your group, your club, your goalies, and make that work. So really, really good stuff. So today I wanted to talk about a couple things. So I'm going to get back to that. Just some praise here. So first, I want to just point out two goalies in particular. Okay, so Katie Nord to start. Katie Nord is Dave Nord and Angela Nord's daughter, and Katie is going into her junior year of high school. Okay, and they are members of Lacrosse Goalie University, and I think the first time I got to know Dave, this kind of how this starts. Dave sent put a photo in our group of his goalie, his son, hitting an attackman and just wiping a kid out. To which his son was ejected. The goalie was ejected from the game, and so that's how that relationship started. And it was a fun discussion inside the group about the goalie as well, and if it was a penalty or not. But Katie is the type of goalie I see a lot. Loves the game. Is in a weird situation. There's lots of goalies, and she has kind of felt like the odd man out, but she's put in a ton of work. Okay, and so one of the things that I see over and over and over again across the country. Okay, this is not. This is not. It doesn't matter if you're in Phoenix. Doesn't matter if you're in Maryland or New York or California or Oregon or Ohio. Like, it doesn't matter. But she's put in the work and she made the varsity, which was a bit of a surprise, but in my mind, not a surprise, because I know that when you put in the work and you do the right stuff, and it's what we, I appreciate all of our goalies, the goalies that I get to work with, just that the fact that, when you put in the work, good things will happen, and good things will happen have happened to Katie in a big way, which is awesome. So it's going to be a great, season for her. The other goalie I just wanted to point out was also Cooper Redfern. So Jonathan Cooper Redfern, who you see in the Facebook group, is a big fan of the program, and I'm a big fan of theirs. Coop is a little guy, and going on 11, 12 now, I think. I work with Division I lacrosse goalies, and I work with like U10s. It's just awesome, right? And so Jonathan, the dad's been putting in a lot of work. Coop's been playing a lot of lacrosse, and they've been playing indoor field, but indoor, like in a rink, but they were using full size nets. And I got this message from Coop. I just got to read this because this was awesome. All right, so Jonathan writes, he goes, "Coach, I know I have thanked you before, and I always sing your praises on the Facebook page, and that makes me blush." Okay, but I want to say it again. Cooper is crushing it this indoor non-box season, both in and out of the goal, to the point that other goalie parents are coming to us for help and lessons. I love this. Cooper was 20 for 22 and caused the opposing coach to break a clipboard. I've done that. I've been a clipboard breaking coach at times. So this is great. This made me smile. So Cooper was 20 for 22 and caused the opposing coach to break a clipboard. The coach asked Cooper after the game how he was so good. His answer: "I go to Lacrosse Goalie University. Please keep up the great work. You're making the game better, and just want to say thanks." And I don't like doing that, but I could not resist sharing that. So Coop's 10, and that's just, that's the oxygen that makes this all worthwhile. So so I just want to share a couple things. If you're a parent out there and you've got a goalie, and you don't know a lot about the game of lacrosse, but you love your kid, right? And you want them to succeed. If you put in the time, good things. Oh man, sorry. Good things will happen. Give me a sec. Good things are going to happen to you. This sport, this position, is so messed up in so many ways, stuck in such old, outdated thinking. And I've seen so many families get burned and worn out and tired. And I'll just tell you again and again, if you do the work, good stuff's going to happen. Wow. Sorry, guys. I'm super tired. But these are just a handful of stories that I hear like every week. Okay. Every week I hear good stories like this. And I just want you to know that if you're goalies, I don't give a shit if you're in some weird town, if you don't know a thing about lacrosse, if you don't know about if you think the coach sucks or the league sucks, if your kid wants to make something happen, it's going to happen. And and I hear this over and over and over again. Last night, so I get this message from Jonathan this morning. Last night, I'm on the phone with two Division I lacrosse goalies, both girls. And I'm going to jump ahead to one of the topics today. But you think that as you go through this path in lacrosse and lacrosse goaltending, that all of a sudden, as you get better teams, you get to high school, you get to college, that the problems are going to go away. They don't, okay? But the goalies that put in the work, the goalies that, I swear to God, if you follow what I've been teaching you, if you adopt it, if you do it, good things are going to happen. And so I'm on the phone yesterday with two Division I lacrosse goalies. And they're dealing with the shittiest pardon me, guys, but they're dealing with the shittiest coaches. And it floors me. And so I want you to know that you're doing the right thing, because your goalie is going to have to learn adult skills that come from this position. The kids like the game of lacrosse. Everybody loves your kids. They love the game, and you think, okay, I hope I don't ever have to deal with this stuff. You're going to have to deal with it, even at the Division I level. It doesn't go away. All right, but the work that Katie's put in, the work that Cooper's putting in at 10 years old, that is going to pay off in a big, big way. So let me start with this today. So about those Division I lacrosse goalies and dealing with coaches that are just kind of frustrating. Let's put it that way. So the game of lacrosse is so it's big, but it's tiny. Right. I don't think a lot of people really get this. Right. As a parent in this game, we see all the hype for the equipment and the pro leagues, and we see the latest shafts and the latest stick heads, and like we don't even know what's legal to play with in women's lacrosse right now. Like I've got a discussion. Nikki Stevenson, who's a retailer and sells equipment, is part of our group. We had a discussion this last week in the Facebook group, like, about what sticks are legal for girls, and nobody had a really good answer, and we still don't fully. I've got some information there. Bottom line, the Nemesis 3 doesn't work for the girls. But I just want you to know, this sport looks big on the outside. It looks good when you're on your computer and you're looking at YouTube. You could be looking at like a hockey game, a football game, a baseball game, a lacrosse game. It all looks the same, right? There's stadiums and stands and people. But I'll tell you this, lacrosse is tiny. It's minuscule. Globally, it's not even a blip on the radar. And you guys, as parents of goalies, are at the bottom of that pile, right? You are it's the smallest niche of the smallest niche ever, okay? I swear, like, underwater hockey seems bigger than, and that's a thing, by the way, and underwater basket weaving seems bigger to me than sometimes lacrosse does. So with that, you are going to have to blaze your own path. And you're going to run into coaches, and you're going to run into coaches at the Division I level who are still thinking like they are 1984, okay? And your kids weren't even born then, right? Right? That's the fun thing now. Like at my age, I work with goalies that, weren't even born when I went to the Olympics, right? Which doesn't seem too long ago, but we're all getting older. But anyway, so I want you to understand, you got to blaze this trail on your own, right? You're going to have to blaze a trail, and it's going to be on fire. All right. It's going to be on fire when you get to it. Because you're going to run into coaches that say, oh, you shouldn't be wearing equipment, or, oh, you should be jumping rope, or, oh, you should be stepping at 45, like all this crap that's still there. Okay. And if people just get their heads out of their whats and look outside of this sport, they would be better off. Okay. So I want you to be ready for that battle. And I'm here to help you win it. I swear to God, I'm here to help you win it. Okay. It's funny with the families that I work with who are part of Lacrosse Goalie University, and I do goalie audits for them every single month, right? I'm doing basically private coaching for them every single month. I will tell you that these goalies now and the families, it's like I'm wrapping you in insulation, right? So that when you go out and you go to a team and you start hearing this like outdated info, you're going to be insulated from negative critics who don't know what the hell they're talking about. And I share this today because last night I'm on the phone at like 10 o'clock with a Division I goalie, thinking to myself, why are we even having this conversation, right? Why is this still going on? And so that's where just, we do this each week and each week. And I want you to know that if you're listening to me, and for those of you that send me direct messages asking questions, like, I want you to know you're doing the right thing. You're on the right path. It's not going to get easier, but you've just got to stand up for what you know, what you believe, what your goalie believes, and good shit's going to happen. Okay. So for the kids that are listening to me right now, I'm sorry I'm swearing, but you've heard me long enough. Um, so yeah. So the problems that I'm seeing right now with college coaches, just to kind of give you guys all some perspective, so you might have a kid who's 10 years old, but you got to listen, you got to hear this out. All right. The problem with college coaches, okay, and the further up you go on your food chain, wherever you are. So if you go on a travel team, if you go on to a new high school team, and they got a good program, those coaches are primarily focused on the tactics of their game. Okay. And a lot of times they're focused on the offensive half of the field. Okay. So um, goalies are they're an afterthought, which is a huge mistake. Okay. And this is going to lead really well into my next question that we're going to cover here from Victor Rodriguez. But the you got to understand, you got to know where they're coming from. Okay. Because I believe, as the goalie and as the parent of the goalie, it's unfair to look at a coach and go, oh, the coach sucks. If we had a different coach, it would be better. No. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this. I heard a guy, I think he was on, like, TD Jakes, that big like black minister dude. He's kind of like the black version of Joel Osteen, right? I heard him talk. He was interviewing a guy who's a marriage counselor, and he said that people typically leave a marriage for 20% of the, like, they look at their partner and they say, okay, 80% of my partner is good, but there's 20% that sucks, so I'm going to leave. And then what happens? They get another relationship, and they now have a different 20% that sucks. Right. So the grass is rarely greener. Okay. So I want you to know that as a parent and as a goalie, you got to understand that you've got to like mow your lawn, right? You've got to make your grass green wherever you're at. Okay. Because those coaches, they are thinking tactically. They're thinking X's and O's. They want to win, right? Because they need to win. Right. That's especially at the high school level, and travel teams need to win, because if they don't win, it's really hard to get other kids who want to play. Right. It's just a fact of life. It's just a cost of doing business. Right. So as the goalie, you've got to be prepared that you're going to be an afterthought, that you're going to have to figure out how to get warm before game, and figure how to go into a game without a warm up and still play at your best. Right. You're gonna have to do all that stuff, right? Because the further you go up the food chain, they just are interested in the X's and O's. And what I tell people is, like, the problems we typically have with coaches is less about what they tell us, but how they tell us, right? It's like, we all know the condescending coach, right? And you're just like, dude, what you're telling is what you're saying may be valid, but how you're saying it makes me want to just kick you in the squares, right? Like that's what we're getting at, right? So we need to kind of insulate ourselves as parents, but also insulate our kids to go, hey, listen, Jimmy, you're going to go play for this team this year, but I don't know anything about the coach. The coach could be, and then you list all these potential things that could go wrong. So that Jimmy, your little Jimmy, right, is going to that team, and he's insulated, or she's insulated, right? And because we've got to meet these coaches kind of halfway. Now, ideally, a coach comes to you with a bear hug and an arm around your shoulder, going, listen, buddy, like, this is how this is going to go, and they map out this, like, golden trail, with unicorn farts, and it's just all fantastic, right? And your goalie's just like stress-free, and it's going to be a phenomenal time. But that's not what's going to happen most likely. It's most likely your goalie is going to show up, and they're going to feel like they're not going to know anybody. They're going to be thrown in the cage. They're going to let the first 6 shots in. You're going to feel on the sideline, like you're the only like you've got this like halo over you with like neon signs saying, I'm the goalie's mom, or I'm the goalie's dad, and it's going to feel that low. But you can prepare your goalie, but just saying, all right, listen, dude, this is how this is going to go, right? And you got to prepare for the worst. and you just got to play your game, and you got to read the cheat sheets and know that your grade is not what's on the scoreboard, right? But you got to just put in your best effort, because when you put in your best effort, right, every single day, then good things are going to happen. And that is a life skill, people, right? That is something we want our kids to have forever, right? Is whatever is ready for anything. Like, they get in there and they just put their nose down, because even when they get to that Division I level, right? Even when they get to that Division I level, and I want to tell you, everybody that listens to me, there's some of you whose kid wants to be Division I, and you believe that they could make it happen. There's another group of people where your kid wants to go Division I, and you're going like, his room's still a mess, right? No, the thing is this: you've just got to say, like, all right, if your athlete is committed to that, you got to know that this is not going to get easier. It's just going to get harder. And if you can teach your goalie to fall in love with the work, then they're going to be able to deal with coaches along the way, no matter what. Right? Does that make sense? Like, give me a little thumbs up or a high five if you're in the group, or a comment. That would be and yeah, just give me some love there. So, wow, lots of comments. Okay. Yeah. So Joel Rose, get them early before some old school lax bro screws them up with step to the ball. Totally. All right. Kenneth Butler, thank you. Appreciate that. Greg Bernhardt, hello. Ray Swarski, I keep seeing coaches trying to tell my son to step toward the shot, shaking my head. We talk about it after practice, and he knows these are just dads thinking about how they were coached. Yeah, and that's a great point. Okay, so one of the things, Ray, this floors me, because so if you're dealing with a full-time coach, now I'm a huge believer. Like, I believe parents are the. How many of you would agree with me that you would rather have a parent on the sideline who, like on the bench, who knows a little bit about lacrosse but can love up your kid, than having some college kid, right, who's not a parent, who may have played at the highest level? Like, just give me a heads up, but just leave me a comment if that's affected you, or because the older I get, and I believe this, I believe this when I was younger, but when I was like pre-kids, but I see this thing now, like, okay, we got to keep the parents out of here, so we'll have college kids, and that'll solve it. That happens a lot up in Canada, and it's especially where I live in Alberta now, and it's just it's crap, like with a capital C or a capital K. Let's give it a capital K. Crap with a K sounds more impressive. But I want you to know, like, that your goalie may run into, like, yeah, this dad who never got who's never been a goalie or never coached or whatever. But that's where one of the things that I recommend to all of you, and some of you are both parent coaches, but we had a question this week, or sorry, it was another group I was in hockey related, kids going to a tryout, right? Going to a recruiting event. And dad's like, what should I expect from these things? So he's asking a group of people that may or may not have attended this thing. And I'm thinking, as the goalie, you have a right, even if your kid's not the goalie, to contact these people and say, what's the practice plan for the week? Like, how is this going to work out? Like, okay, we're going to a camp. It's 3 days, 4 days, or maybe it's 2 days. What's the tryout? Like, what's the game plan? And if they can't give you something, it shows you how poorly organized they are, for one. But they should be able to give you an itinerary that says, yeah, okay, practice starts at 9. Goalies show up at 8:35, right? And we're going to run through this warm up and this, that, and then we're going to go into 9 o'clock. We're going to do dynamic movement warm up, and then we're going to do some ground ball drills, and then we're going to do shooting drills. So, okay, coach, what are the shooting drills? Right? What are you guys doing for shooting drills? Are you doing shots from outside? Are you doing 1-on-0 on the goalie with lacrosse balls and not tennis balls? Are you doing 3-on-2s? Like, what's it going to be? And again, if they can't tell you, they're not organized. And I would question, like, where you put your money, right? So understand that, like, as an athlete, I want my athletes to know as far enough in advance what's going to happen, right? And I want you to understand that you have a right. Like, as a paying customer, you have a right to know, all right, this is how this is all going to go down. And then you go to your goalie and you go say, hey, yo, listen, we are going to, okay, you're going to get shots from 15 yards, time and room shots. You're going to get 8-meter shots. Like you're going to get 1-on-0s, like whatever. And so then now practice that so that your goalie shows up and now they're ready. It's like they've already been there, right? If you can do that, if your goalie has felt like they've already been at that tryout, they're going to have a really good chance to succeed. Okay. So you got to do that, because this floors me. Even at the Division I level, this stuff isn't happening, right? So we assume incorrectly. I'm letting you all know it's totally incorrect. We assume that at the Division I level, they're going to be all of a sudden more organized, and some schools are, right? Some coaches are, right? And that's great. But some aren't. Like, and it floors me. And these are like big names that you would recognize. Okay, let's put it that way. Charles writes, okay, Charles Kearney, what's it? My son, hold on, I'm trying to get this out. My son played in November at Lax Fed in Philly and was getting burned repeatedly. No defense, but Wilkes University coach went up to him and told him that he did a great job, and then takes a team to lose, not him. Thought that was pretty cool. That is really cool, Charles. Thank you for sharing that. Because, right, it's less about what a coach says and more about how he says it. And I believe like every athlete really wants a bear hug, right? I'm not going to give them that hug, but that's what we're looking for first, right? We want it. We call it a shit sandwich, right? We want to get a little praise first, right? And then we need a little bit of constructive criticism. Then we need a little bit more praise, and we send them on their way, right? But that's fantastic. And a coach like that is going to have more parents that like him, for one, and he's going to get more kids that way, which is really, really good. So, wow, a lot of people checking in. Love this. Jonathan Redford, great life lesson for dealing with the boss that sucks. Yes. Dave Nord, tagging for later. Got Helen, good to see. Thank you. Jason, wow, everybody's. I'm a dad. So Ray Stawarski, I'm a dad that coaches, but have stepped away to be on board. I never played goalie, but have spent hundreds of hours learning from you and others. I honestly believe I'm a better goalie coach than 85% of the quote unquote coaches out there. Yeah. Yeah. So we have hierarchies where kids have played, and then they all of a sudden just kind of become coaches because they're making $250 a day in their flip flops. Right. And then that kind of continues down, but then the goalie specific alone, you've got to basically, the best explanation I've ever heard about this, guys, is this idea of culture within a sport, like generations within a sport. Okay. So in Canada, right? I'm from Boston. I live in Canada. In Alberta, box lacrosse is big in Ontario, which is like north of New York, for those of you that don't know. And then British Columbia, like Vancouver, which is north of like Washington State, like out, west coast. And then in the middle of the country, Alberta has come along, but in Ontario and BC, you have multi-generations of families that have played box lacrosse, right? Grandpa's grandpa played, right? And then it comes down and it comes down and it comes down. And so you have all this like this conversation of how to play that trickles down through the ages, okay? And what happens is that if you live in Ohio, if you live in Nebraska or wherever, but even if you live in Maryland or Long Island or those places, there can be a trickle down of bad information, which is what I've been trying to change for years, right? And we're making progress. But then there's also places where you don't have that generational laydown of info. So that's why you come to the internet. That's why you end up finding me. That's why you end up finding ways to go like, okay, yeah, there's a hockey goalie cup that's better than any lacrosse goalie cup, right? Like, so we're using that. So you've got to be on that quest and understand that, that's what you're running into, is that there isn't this generational down the road, like, oh, grandpa was a lacrosse goalie and dad was a lacrosse goalie. And then now I'm a lacrosse goalie and my sister's a lacrosse goalie too. Right. That's so rare. Like, it's ridiculously rare. It's like, it's like a unicorn. Right. So it's like a rainbow unicorn if you actually found one, but you know what I mean? So that's what we're up against here. And that's where change. So you're in the right place, because we're fixing all this. Okay. So let me move on. Next question here, and thanks for all the comments, guys. I can't read through all of them. It's just been fantastic, though. I totally appreciate this. So Victor Rodriguez wasn't expecting to cry on my weekly Facebook Live, though. Holy smokes, you guys all got me. Jonathan Redfern, it's all your fault. So Victor Rodriguez from Orlando, Florida, who is the head pastor at the Breakthrough Church down, I guess it's in Orlando, which is sweet. So he writes that he goes, I'm coaching a brand new high school program. I've worked with kids who didn't know how to play goalie, but I've only coached up teens who've already played some. I want to get him to compete ready quick. Okay, so the grammar on this isn't the best, but I think I get the gist. So now, if you've got a good goalie, all right, and you've got a goalie who's playing, and that's awesome, and you get it, and they might be playing on an established team, or if you're in a brand new program, I teach my goalies to be like I've said, be ready for anything, and to put themselves in a situation to succeed, even though they may be in a situation that is designed for them to fail. Okay, so I was watching a team last year, and I got a chance to see a number of practices, and it was obvious to me that now this on the outside, right? And I want you guys to all be like good consumers of lacrosse, right? So on the outside, it all looked great. There's like a tent over the table at practice, and it's got their logo on it, and they had some cool flags, that you'd see outside of like, I don't know, like Quiznos when they're having a weekend promo. Everybody had pennies and had shorts, even though the girls' shorts were just the boys' shorts, and they all had them like rolled over 12 times, and they all looked like they were running around in diapers, but it looked like lacrosse, right? And if you didn't know any better, it looked like lacrosse. But as I watched the practice, I realized like there's no teaching going on here. There's no education going on here. And the goalies, like, forget it. Like, it wasn't good at all. And so what I want my goalies to know as they go to practice is they have to get themselves physically prepared to play. They have to get themselves mentally prepared to play. They have to get themselves ready to make the most out of this practice. And here's what happens, okay? You can look at this one of two ways. One, you can set a goal. So, all right, Victor here has a brand new high school program. If you go into this as the coach and you're thinking like, hey, we have a brand new program, so that means therefore we aren't going to be very good. That's one attitude. The other way to look at this, Victor, and for everybody else is listening, if you have a brand new program, it's that we're going to have a top tier high school program in 4 years. Okay? Different attitude. Now, how does that affect the goalie? The goalie needs to show up on their own and be like, I'm going to be an all-league goalie by the time I graduate, or in 2 years or 3 years, whatever. That has to be the attitude. In my other Facebook group today, after I'm done here, at Raising High Performing Athletes, I'm going to talk about commitment, and I'm going to touch on it a little bit right now. I tell a story about in my hometown ages ago, South Weymouth, Massachusetts, right? There's two high schools. There's Weymouth North and Weymouth South. And Weymouth North had a lacrosse program. Weymouth South didn't. And this guy named Del Lewis, who was a lawyer, this little slimy little lawyer dude, he started the lacrosse program at Weymouth South. He also started Commonwealth Lacrosse, if you guys remember that name. So ComLax. He actually started that out of a half of his like little tiny lawyer's office. That's where it all started. So he did one thing. Well, he did a bunch of things at Weymouth South, but there was one thing that I remember them doing because I almost went there. He taught everybody how to play with both hands. Okay. So stick away from the cage. That was like his one rule of thumb. Stick away from the cage. 4 years later, they were fighting for the state championships. Okay. So he did not come to that thinking like, oh, we'll just see how this goes. He started with a begin with the end in mind. And I want you and your goalie to not fear beginning with the end in mind, right? It's like, listen, hey, my little goalie, just, he's loving the game and I want to keep him happy. It's like, yo, no, the idea is not to just chase fun every day. It's to go, listen, I'm going to be a really good lacrosse goalie. Like I'm going to be, I'm going to be the best goalie on the field every day. That's a great goal to have, right? So when your goalie shows up like that, now everything has meaning. Now when like the ball's in the other end of the field for practice, he calls over to the assistant coach and says, "Can you just shoot on me?" Right? And getting more reps and more reps and more reps, like finding the answer. So 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 the thing for Victor here is creating an environment where it's like, okay, listen, we're going to do all the parts and pieces of a great lacrosse practice. Okay. Now, because this is a big deal, some people think that, oh, my goalie's not great or my team's not great, so we're not going to do, we're not going to do dynamic warm-ups. We're just going to go right into line drills, or we're going to do, we're not going to work on whatever. We're just going to, we're just going to play. We're just going to play. And there's some value to just playing. I get it. There's value to creativity. There's value of not being too structured. There's value in just kind of creating, like Brazilian soccer style guys playing on the, in their bare feet on the beach. I get all that. But there's some people who come at this and go, all right, we're mediocre, therefore our practice doesn't need to be better yet. And then there's other coaches go like, no, 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 we're going to run this thing like the real deal. And so for Victor and anybody else listening, when you pay attention to the environment, then it's up to the kids to show up with their intention, right? The difference between a kid who's an All-American and a kid who's not is their intention doing the things that they're doing, right? So when your goalie steps in the cage, when your goalie comes to practice, if they've had enough sleep and they're fed and they're watered and they're happy, then they're going to have a better practice than if they're just kind of winging it, right? And so I want you guys as parents of your goalies to go like, it's okay for my kid to say they want to be a Division I lacrosse goalie. That'll sort itself out. Like we all know that, like, listen, you know, we don't know where they're going to end up in school, but when they say, "Hey, I want to be a Division I lacrosse goalie," or for Victor here, like, there's a difference between saying like, "Oh, I have a lacrosse program," versus like, "I'm creating a lacrosse program that's going to have a kid who plays Division I lacrosse." Right? That's like, "Oh, all right, let's do this." Now, the kids may not be able to catch the ball. The kids may not know which end is up, but you're still going to run a really phenomenal practice. And so, following like Patrick Chapla at palax.com and all the resources he has there for how to run a practice. So Victor, please check that out. Those are things that are going to help create an environment of success. The kids will then come along. Right. So I coached at Bedford, Massachusetts, which is an Air Force based town in just outside of Boston. It's like my first coaching gig ever. And I remember, that I finally got the athletic director to buy us helmets, right? To finally buy like some Cascade helmets so the team all looked good, because we're going up against like teams like Concord Carlisle and Lincoln Sudbury, which are like the top programs in Massachusetts, and then we had like crappy jerseys, and I finally got the athletic director, who was the football coach, to give me like the football jerseys from 3 years ago. My mom hemmed every single one of those football jerseys so they looked like a lacrosse jersey. And then we bought shorts. So now we looked like we knew what the hell we were doing. And then practice was like organized, and it was, it was good. And by the time I left there, like, we had a kid who went to the University of Hartford, not Harvard, Hartford, and played lacrosse, Nick DeFino, right? And that was all part of the environment. So Victor, I want you as the coach of this new program to begin with the end in mind, right? I don't care if your town is like low income. I don't care if it doesn't have enough kids. I don't care if nobody's ever picked up a lacrosse stick before. You can still create an environment. Now, for those of you listening, for your goalie, they have to create their own internal environment with whatever team they show up to, right? Like those Division I goalies I was talking to last night, they're like, "Yeah, our coach is not very organized." I'm like, that sucks, right? but I was like, you guys have to be organized. You have to drive that bus. You have to get out there early and do your stuff. And I nearly like spit out my water because they're the coach who was working with the goalies was having them freaking juggle and jump rope and all that BS. But anyway, so does that make sense? Right? Does that like so don't fear the fact that like, okay, it's okay to start out with the framework of being great. The kids may drop the balls, like it doesn't matter, but you could still run like proper drills, right? You still be organized. You can still have a timeline, right? Now, sometimes as the coach, now I'm hoping Victor here he's a head pastor at a church, probably a pretty organized guy, right? He's probably, I hope he's not doing his sermon 5 minutes before he gets on behind the pulpit, right? But there's potential there to run something really, really good. And then on top of it, for a guy like Victor, who's a pastor, as I think what all coaches, really good coaches, know is that this is beyond lacrosse. Like what we're doing with our kids is beyond lacrosse. Okay, so we can't lose that. So that's a great question. So lastly, I want to talk about mechanical differences with lacrosse goalies. Okay, so this let me just add a marker here to my video. Lucas Tasowski, hopefully I said that right, who's Lucas Tasowski, who's on, and his daughter Sarah is at Towson University. So she's we've got a video in our Facebook group of her. She's I call her Twitchy, like she's one of the twitchiest female goalies I've seen in a while. And your goalie should be twitchy, by the way. So I should make up some t-shirts, #Twitchy. So so one of the things to understand is that so Sarah is quite tall, lean, and lanky, right? So long femurs, like that, the upper leg bone from your knee to your hip, that's a femur, right? Super long. She's the type of girl that probably eats a pizza, never puts on a pound, like other girls hate her, that sort of thing. But she's very long-limbed, and her hips are very narrow. Okay, now versus other goalies where they're a little bit more, they're probably a little shorter, stockier, like wider hips. Okay, but this also happens on the boys' side a little bit, not as much, but on we have goalies who are like myself, like 5'7.25", $175, right? And then you've got taller goalies like boys who are like 6'2", but they can be lean and lanky. So as an adult, hopefully you guys all remember leverage a little bit, geometry and things along those lines, right? So if we've got a long fulcrum, right, or if we've got a long lever, and we've got that fulcrum is close to you, and on the end of that fulcrum there's a weight, and we try to push our end down, it's really heavy. Okay, so what I want people to understand is like, so I talk about athletic stance, and I was writing about this in my book lately, just the idea of every athlete has a base athletic stance. Okay, so they have one that they'll naturally get in. And a way to test for it is just have your goalie stand and play, like just stand, no stick, have them stand there and have them do 3 jumps, okay? Like 3 jumps as high as they can. And on the last jump, when they land on the last jump, just have them get ready, right? Like you're going to run at them, okay? And they've got to defend themselves. So what you'll see is they will naturally, their feet will land a certain distance, their hands will get to a certain point, their knees will be a certain width apart, and that will show you your athlete's base athletic stance. Okay. Now we teach in lacrosse, one of the problems that's happened over the years is that goalies have developed a very wide, like you see, especially the men's college game, very wide feet, right? Very wide knees, very wide feet. This takes a ton of hip strength. And it's easier if you are a shorter and stocky goalie versus a tall, lean, and lanky goalie with long levers, okay? So as a coach, you have to understand that a goalie like Sarah Tasowski is going to have a different stance than a goalie who is like a Megan Taylor, who is short, 5'2", and is probably a little bit more compact, right? And again, it all comes down to geometry, right? It all comes down to hip width. And I'm not just talking about the girls here, but it all comes down to like hip socket width. It comes down to like strengthen the glutes and the glute medius and strengthen the ankles and all sorts of stuff. And then where you hold your stick away from your body, if you're stronger in the shoulder, you can hold that stick a little further away than a goalie who is got longer levers, because that stick feels heavy way out there and they can't move it that much. So it's important that if your goalie goes to a camp, and this is one of the things that with my Lacrosse Goalie University members, I'm seeing video every single week or every single month, and I'm seeing the physical ability of that goalie. Like, where can they hold that stick? What are they migrating to, right? If that stick is coming too close to their body, if it looks like they're kind of standing and their elbows are close to their side and they're resting there, there's a strength issue in their shoulders. But if your coach is not addressing that with your goalie and saying like, yo, you've got to get your hands further away from your body, or you've got to put your feet wide, and they don't take into consideration the strength levels and the flexibility and the mobility of your goalie and just the geometry, they're going to screw your goalie up. Like, literally, they're going to screw your goalie up. So you've got to, if your goalie comes back from camp, and they're working with some college kid, and all the college kid's telling them is that, oh, you got to stand like this. It's like, whoa. A goalie who is 20 years old in college can stand one way, right? A U14 female goalie is not going to stand like him, right? Even a U14 male goalie is not going to stand like him. Okay. So, and this floors me, right? And one of the things that affects it, everybody, just physically in terms of strength for your goalie, is that if your so conditioning and strength work should not be the same across your team. Like strength and conditioning should not be a team building activity. Coaches who say that, like, I just want to, if you guys seen TikTok, there's this Chinese animation sound effect thing. And I want to do that to the coach's face. I want to be like, just wake up, dude. Like, this is not how this works, right? What your team needs to understand, what your coach needs to understand, is that, hey, listen, when your team is they're going for a run for 3 miles, but your goalies are over here doing sprints and not as many nearly as the team running 3 miles, everybody's putting in their work. They're all working as a team, right? It's not like you have to do the same stuff, right? It's like going to a buffet and saying, we're all going to have the pasta. And meanwhile, there's all this other great food there. But as a team, we're just going to eat the pasta. It's like, yo, wait a second. No, my goalies need to be on this end of the table. They need to be over there. Because why? Physically, they're completely different. So we've got to be addressing that. All right, we've got to be addressing that. And so don't let your goalie get screwed up if they're getting pummeled by a coach saying like, oh, you gotta run laps with the team just like everybody else does. Yo, your goalie is not just like everybody else. They are the twitchiest person on the field. Don't ruin it, right? Don't ruin it, right? So please don't let your coach, don't let the camp they go to, don't let any of that stuff, have a discussion with the coach, get with them. I like to see it proactively, right? Before you're on a team, before you make a program, before you try out for even if you go to a travel team and let's say it's a team you just got called up for and the coach needs a goalie to go to Utah, right? And so you're gonna shell out money to travel to Utah, and then you get there and the coach does all this crazy stuff with your goalie. No, find it out on the front end, right? What do you do? What is practice like? What are you doing for warm-ups? What are you gonna ask my goalie to do? Right? What's your take on stance? What's your take on this? Ask those questions, right? And get answers. And if they can't give it to you, then say like, listen, this is how I want it to go. Okay. And I help my Lacrosse Goalie University families that when they get to that point, like I help them through that. Right. So something to consider. So listen, holy smokes, Sean Lynch, Catalana, holy smokes, Sean Catalana, I haven't seen him forever, dude. Good to see you guys. Ray Stowarski writes, I work with my little guy on practice like you play. Yeah. It's just be a pro, be a professional, right? Be a pro. The habits of being a pro start now. You don't have to wait, right? You don't need to wait. It's awesome. So yeah, Jonathan Redford, Hansker Air Force Base, exactly. And Suzanne Lalette Ish from Tampa, always rubbing in our face. She's always in Tampa. It's nice, and she's worrying about her tan lines. I'm worried about how like pale I'm getting up here. So listen, everybody who's followed me this far through, this is an epic one. Caught me pretty emotional at the beginning. Congrats to Katie Nord. Congrats to Cooper Redfern. Listen, little sales pitch. If I can help you, right? If you've got a goalie and you just want to just get this done and get it done right, send me a note, send me a message. Let's get you going. Let me coach your goalie. All right. I give so much out for free, but if you're ready for, just go like, all right, listen, let's just get this done and get it done right. Right. Join for a month, whatever. I've got goalies that I work with for years, because they know they're just going to get the right answers. If I can help you, please just send me a message. You can email me, coach@lacrossegoalietips.com. Let's get you going. Like, let's make 2020 the best year you've got. And because as you're starting to hear, it's just a tiny amount of the goalies that I work with who have those types of results. And so results like Cooper, results like Katie, and I'm just the guide. They put in the work. I'm just the guide. But good things happen. So listen. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks everybody for watching. Do me a favor, leave a comment wherever you are. If you're watching me on YouTube or you're listening on iTunes or whatever, leave a comment. Share this with a coach, a parent, a goalie who needs it. Because the only way we're going to make a change is if we kind of spread this knowledge. Because my motto is I'm changing the game of lacrosse one goalie at a time, and it's all starting with you and your goalie. Okay, so I'm really, really happy to do that. And like I said, the oxygen that keeps this going is always the great comments, and it's always the goalies that come and finally join Lacrosse Goalie University as well. So you guys have a great week. I'll see you in the group. Lots of great energy happening. And let's make 2020 your best lacrosse season ever. All right, guys. Thanks. See you next week. Cheers. Bye.